Whenever you're ready to go, Dan.
Thanks, Squid. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Good evening. Happy Friday. Hard to believe it's July 15th on a lot of levels, middle of the summer. And we have an exciting program for everyone today. I'm literally looking at 3 typed pages of bullet points on an agenda, so lots to talk about. I'm not going to have answers for everything today, but I'm going to have a lot of good alpha that I think will get everybody excited about what's going on. So what I'd like to do is recap the agenda to start with, and then, of course, at the end of the program, we'll have some Q&A. So what I'm going to cover today is the state of our market, the state of the general market in Web3, crypto and NFTs. I'm going to talk about our committees and where we are there. I'm going to talk about the development of our platform and some new formats around distributing information on our progress. Talk a little bit about new forms of communication with the community involving a newsletter and emails. And then the meat of the conversation, I think that will be really exciting. We'll be talking about our timeline, which has really developed and has kind of become fortified to the point where we can really begin to share some very specific details around our timeline, which I'm really excited about. We'll end the AMA with some Q&A, and at around 1:30, I've asked one of our advisors, Max, who's a full-time partner at Crypto Oracle, very steeped in the space, a professional portfolio manager of NFTs and trader, to come on and talk a little bit about kind of what he's seeing as it relates to us in the market. So I expect him to pop on at some point around 1:30 or so. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with the general state of our market and the market. I won't get into a lot of details other than just to make some really interesting observations. Many of them are kind of very visible to everyone, but I'll reinforce them. We all know kind of where our sales are to date as it relates to our avatars, and where our sales are to date relating to Skyfalls. Again, the floors are meaningless given how thin the market trades and how quickly people can pop in and out to buy and sell avatars. But it is worthy to recap an article that I wrote and published, I think, about a week ago, relating to how to look at things that are going on in our market, most specifically the avatar and our Skyfalls claim, the pyramid claim. We're seeing a lot of people claiming their pyramids. We're seeing people stripping their claims from their avatars, selling them, buying new avatars with claims. So, when you look at the value right now, the real value of our unclaimed avatars is probably sitting at a floor of about 1 ETH, which is about 7x where the mint price was. And when you strip out the pyramid, the avatars are trading at between 0.5 and 0.6. So people are assigning values, which are really interesting from our perspective, because there's obviously a lot of speculation around what's happening, and we're excited to kind of see how that all unfolds for everyone over the course of the next short period of time, and I'll talk a little bit about timing there as well. I do want to remind everybody how valuable secondary market trading is for the platform. The DAO will receive in perpetuity an 8% royalty on every transaction that takes place. So that helps fund the platform and ultimately the value of the DAO, which inures to the benefit of anybody that holds any assets within the platform. So we'd like to see that grow and continue to grow. And given how relatively small our community is to other projects and our collection is to other projects, we're in a really, really great position. I can't be more pleased with where we are right now and where I believe we're going to get to soon. I will highlight a few other observations that may not be apparent to everybody, but are incredibly meaningful. So I'm going to start with the following. We are in the top 20 all-time sports NFT projects, regardless of the blockchain that they're on. I'm not talking about a list of projects that have been out for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. The entire history of the NFT gaming world. We are now fortified in the middle of the pack, in the top 20 of all-time NFT projects in sports, regardless of blockchain, from the beginning of time. In Ethereum, on the Ethereum blockchain, we are in the top 15 projects all time of sports projects ever launched on the Ethereum blockchain. And here is another factoid that I think is probably the most impressive of them all, which is if you go to all NFT projects related to sports, and you look at the floor of all projects related to sports right now, we are, with the exception of one project, we have the highest floor of any NFT project on OpenSea, regardless of blockchain. We have the highest floor of a project. And when you look at, again, the size of our collection and the size of our community, if you were to adjust those data points, to compare them on an apples-to-apples basis with everything else that's out there, we are far and above one of the most successful up-and-coming projects that exists right now. So I'm really proud of where we've gone and where we've come to, and I know that this is just scratching the surface on where we're going to end up in a few short months. I mentioned recently in a Twitter post about the Nansen Gaming 50 Index, which is Nansen is the leading company in creating tracking indexes for Web3, as well as in creating analytical tools to understand and evaluate markets around NFTs. They built the definitive level 2 trading screen. If I had to compare it to something which is used by professional traders in the stock market, and their indexes are regarded as similar to the leading indexes in the stock market, like the NASDAQ, the S&P 100, 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and they're designed to be indicators of where these markets are going. And recently, we were selected and included in the Nansen Gaming 50 Index, which is an assembly of the top 50 sports-related projects in Web3 in the world. And we are currently sitting at number 13, which, by all standards, is an incredible accolade, and it demonstrates the recognition of our significance and our importance within the Web3 community, and specifically within the sports community. I would encourage everybody to spend some time looking at our press. We try to capture as much of it as possible, and I publish it to Twitter, and I know that Twitter reposts it. But if you do a Google of, Game of Silks or Silks NFT, you'll see that there are literally hundreds of articles that have picked us up and talk about us in the most favorable ways. So those are continuing to come and grow organically, and we're excited to see our company and our platform and our community being recognized across all kinds of press. And then finally, we don't really publish this data publicly, but it is worth noting that we average right now about 4,000 or 5,000 unique visitors a week to our website. And our website is currently in the process of being overhauled. We expect that once that takes place over the course of the next few weeks, we'll start seeing a lot more traffic and a lot more stickiness. But that's a pretty big number, considering that we have not been spending a lot of money marketing yet, and I'll be giving you an update on that very shortly. So that's a little bit of a recap of the state of the market. in the NFT world as it relates to us. I will mention, I'll talk a little bit about the state of the crypto market. I'll reinforce some of my comments from my last AMA. Ethereum, which is probably our most important indicator because it's our native currency right now, is sitting at about 1,200, which is 50% higher than its most recent low and 50% lower than its most recent high. But it's sitting firm. I do expect there to be a further decline in the market based on what the analysts that I talk to and listen to, and I believe that kind of once we hit bottom, we'll see a major capitulation, which will then send the market back to the moon. So I've lived this space for about 5 years. I've seen it happen many times, and the roadmap and the playbook looks identical. So not concerned about it in the short run. Certainly in the long run, I'm not concerned about it. The short run, anybody has their guess as to where the market's going to go. I will say that looking at the relationship between our assets and the Ethereum market is really interesting. And I'll give a shout out to one of our community members called Beetlejuice, who put together a really nice page on the Dune website. I believe he posted it in our Discord for people to be able to follow. And one of it tracks our market in great detail. And one of the really interesting graphs is the relationship between the price of Ethereum and the price of our floor, which move in converging directions relative to everything else. And it's pretty fascinating to watch that. Call Beetlejuice also created a Twitter account that automatically updates every transaction of an avatar, which is really cool, and I would encourage everybody to look at that. So it's really nice to see members of our community becoming active and independently creating new sources of data and information and value for our community. That's a really great sign. And I want to thank Call Beetlejuice and everybody else that is involved in creating supporting mechanisms for our community. It's a really great sign, and I expect that over time we'll see more and more of that as this ecosystem really takes on a life of its own. Okay, on to the next topic. I'd like to talk briefly about our committees because that's really the gateway to a lot of information that is going to be disseminated very shortly. The first committee that we've spun up is called the Game Theory Committee, and that is the committee that will be helping us out in thinking through our pricing structure and everything related to that, whether it's rights, entitlements, and sales methodology, etc. This community, we sent out an inquiry for people to apply, received a lot of applications, and ultimately the committee was selected through the community development team, and they looked at various factors in selecting the members of the committee, including their tenure in the community, their level of engagement. So Game of Silk can track how many times you post, how engaged you are, how involved you are, how often you come into Discord, etc., how much you interact with other members. That was very important as well to demonstrate commitment to the platform and to the community. And then their independent qualifications. So these were the characteristics. We wanted to keep the committee initially on the smaller side. I think we're 5 or 6 members. We will be publishing the list of the members to the community so that you know who everybody is. The initial purpose of this community is to really represent the committee, to represent this community in helping share their viewpoints on pricing, on sales methodology, and on entitlements and other things, benefits and value that would come from these various assets. Their deliverables, and this is very, very important, Their deliverable is to provide the management team at Game of Silks with recommendations, right? They're providing a point of view. Ultimately, we will make decisions independently based on evaluating everything that we have, but we will place a lot of emphasis on the committees and what they have to say. And so they will be the voice of the people in this process, and we're incredibly excited and grateful for the kickoff of this and grateful for the participation. The first committee meeting will be focused on pricing across all of our assets and will take place in the beginning of next week. And I can tell you that following that committee meeting, our intention is we're just waiting on that to begin to start publishing information that I know everybody is really interested in relating to a lot of this data, including pricing, timing, sequencing, and things like that. So, I'm not going to be able to share that type of information with you today, but I can tell you it's on the horizon. And the expectation is that as early as our next AMA, we're going to start sharing some very detailed information that I know the community is very interested in as it relates to that. We have two other committees that are being formed. One of them is the Thoroughbred Education Committee, and another one is the Community Outreach and Marketing Committee. I expect that we'll be announcing more information on those and on other committees going forward. I personally am incredibly excited about the community getting involved in this way and having a voice in this way, and I think it's going to be fantastic for all of us. The next thing on my agenda is to talk about development. So what I can tell you at a very high level is that between product development and platform development, we have approximately today 29 people working on a full-time basis around the clock, touching our project on the development side. Binny, who leads product development, has suggested that we begin the process very shortly of holding development update AMAs, in which we'll begin to show you a lot of what's going on behind the scenes so that you can begin to tangibly see the development of the platform. We see that stuff internally, but we haven't shared a lot of it with the community. We're going to begin to start doing that. So as early as the next week or two, we'll start scheduling AMAs where you can literally jump in and see how the technology is progressing, how the evolution of the products are coming along, their origins, and their progress and development. So we're super excited for that. We'll be sharing timing. We'll be sharing a lot relating to development in these AMAs, and they'll be coming very soon. And I think they're going to really provide a tangible visual perspective that will get everybody excited as it gets us. And the last thing on in this bucket of just housekeeping items that I want to share with the community is we've now started the process of letting people sign up with emails and collecting emails. The importance of that for us, it's completely voluntary. I know culturally Web3 has a whole anonymous side to it that is appealing to a lot of people. But we believe in this community, our ability to communicate directly with our community is important. And if you're open to it, we would love for you to participate in that. We'll be publishing regular newsletters with updates and all kinds of other valuable things that we will disseminate through email. We will repost them in Twitter if you don't want to participate that way, but just want to let everybody know. It's something that people do. It's an area that I think as we grow and as our DAO starts taking on meaningful amounts of capital, we'll probably have to be driven in that direction more from a regulatory perspective. So just a heads up on that. And if you haven't signed up yet, it is available, I believe, on our email or on our website, and I would encourage that. So that kind of covers my housekeeping updates on state of the market and just some of the odds and ends. And that really brings me to our timeline, which to me is the guts of this AMA and the ability for me to share some kind of great information with the community. So I'm going to start with this Skyfall Pyramids. As many of you may have noticed, the Skyfall Pyramid entered its phase 3, or its final phase of development. And that happened this morning at 11 o'clock in the morning. What I can tell you is that is the final phase of the development of the pyramid. And what that means is that the reveal is imminent. And when I say imminent, I mean that it is imminent. I can't tell you the exact timing, but if you've been watching the development of the pyramid, you should be able to figure that out. And it will happen very, very soon. So that's a little bit of alpha. And again, it's something that the community should be able to figure out, but it is imminent. The other thing I can tell you on our timeline is that the second part of our collection is scheduled to be launched at the end of July. So we are a couple of weeks away from that. We are still working out the logistics around the way that it's going to be sold, the rights that it will have, and the pricing. And I can also tell you that we are going to have an AMA very soon that will actually disclose all of that information, and you will have that information at least a week before the actual drop itself. So lots of data coming next week as it relates to the balance of our Avatar collection and what that is going to mean to everybody. That brings us to the next phase of our timeline, which is the launch of our marketing campaign. I know I've been talking about it for a while, and it's finally here. We've been very careful about our timing for a variety of reasons. One is we wanted to make sure that we have all of the capabilities in place to be able to absorb the results from the marketing push. And that comes from rebuilding our website, synthesizing our communication in a way that's much easier for people to understand, enhancing our brand, and doing a variety of things, which are all in the works. And some of that will take place simultaneously with the launch of the marketing campaign, which is going to happen again at the end of July. We're going to launch the marketing campaign simultaneously with a show in Los Angeles called the NFT Expoverse, which kicks off on the 29th of July. We have a very big presence there. We'll be speaking, many of us will be speaking on multiple panels. We'll have a booth there. We'll be prominently exposed at the event. So lots that's going to be going on there. And then externally, we'll be launching the balance of our marketing campaign right at that time. That is going to include a major PR campaign to enhance our public relations. That means that we anticipate a more aggressive push towards independent articles coming out in relevant publications about Game of Silks. We also will be turning on a major paid media campaign, which will include Google AdWords and other types of paid media to create awareness and get people to become aware of and act on joining our community. This will take place both within the NFT world, within the investment world, within the gaming world, and within the horse racing world. So we have a multi-pronged approach, and this is all going to be turned on beginning the end of this month. We will also be turning on community collaborations, which means we'll be working directly to develop relationships with other communities and create opportunities for them to join our community and become a part of Game of Silks as well. So we're working on that as well. There's a whole program that's going to go live there as well. We're exploring a referral program. I don't have any details on that yet. I know there are other big platforms that are doing that, and so we're exploring that as well. And then finally, we're working very diligently to finalize some major partnerships. I've been talking about this for a while now, and I'm hopeful that that this kind of comes to fruition in the way we expect it to. Based on where we're sitting right now, I would anticipate that we'll be able to make announcements sometime in August. So that's also in the works. That is our timeline from our marketing campaign. I just want to recap this again. Phase 3 of the pyramids. We've entered phase 3. The reveal is imminent. At the end of July, we launched the avatar sale. More information on that next week. At the end of July, we launch our marketing campaign. Our marketing campaign is going to involve spending a significant amount of capital to create awareness and drive more people to our community, so that we have a larger base of community to kick off the game. That brings us to our next timeline, which I'm excited to share with you, which is the sale of our yearlings. We are projecting that we will drop our yearling sale, our inaugural horse sale, in the middle of September. So we are literally around 2 months away from the sale of the 2022 yearling crop. They will drop in the middle of September unrevealed, and then they will reveal sometime in October. I can also tell you that on our timeline is the sale of our land. Our land was originally anticipated not to be available till sometime next year. We've actually accelerated that process. We're in a very exciting period of development as it relates to the Metaverse land. I can't go into a lot of detail other than to tell you that it is going to happen sooner than we expected, and that we will be announcing our timeline in the next couple of weeks as it relates to land. And I can also tell you, and this is probably the most exciting part of our timeline, we intend to launch our MVP, our what we call our minimum viable product, or the inaugural launch of our metaverse in late October. So we originally also planned for all of this to take place into next year, and based on our progress, based on our momentum, we believe that we'll be able to launch the game as early as October of this year. So I remember when we started developing this project over a year ago, and people challenged us around, well, how are you going to go to market and keep a community together when you're going to have to make them wait so long for a lot of this to come up? And we've had a very patient community, and I can tell you, I'm just beyond excited about how fast this is going to happen. It seems like, September was a very long time ago, and it's right around the corner, and October is right behind that. So I'm super, super excited to share with you guys that this game is going to begin in the fourth quarter of this year, and the functionality that we are anticipating to be a part of the launch is very robust and very significant. And you'll begin to start seeing that as we begin to have these development AMAs, which I think you're going to find incredibly exciting. That brings me to kind of the last point that I'd like to share with the community right now, which is our philosophy. I've spoken about it in the past. I want to reinforce it to the community because I think it's important not to lose sight of this. I'm going to start with the following. We are not a PFP project. We're not a project that creates art and sells the art to collectors that want to collect art. You might find collecting our avatars to be fun, and I do believe that they are collectible and they are fun to collect. I've been sitting on the sidelines. I bought a lot of avatars personally, and I want to start actually, switching them around and buying ones that speak to me, and selling ones that don't speak to me. I haven't really done that yet, but I do think collecting is fun. But that's not the essence of our game. We are a long-term, community-owned and community-driven project. And we are building something incredibly special. We are building something that nobody has ever built before. An alternative universe with a gamified economy that can literally go on in perpetuity. When people, when you look at, and I read a lot of articles relating to games, and, one of the interesting things that you see recurring as a theme is games can never last forever, so they have a life cycle. So you see some of these video games that come and go, different franchises and series, whether it's Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or anything in, the genres in between that. And some of these games have very long lives and some of them have very short lives. And ultimately, many of these games, they end up losing, the community loses interest, just like a series that you watch on Netflix. You might go to season 3. By season 4, you've started losing interest, as has many people in the community. And then eventually they just stop producing the series. What I can tell you is we're building is more akin to a genre rather than to an actual game. When you look at online poker, you can think of it as a game, but it's not a game. It is a genre. It is an entire, macroeconomic game that will survive forever, because it's steeped in a game that has been around forever. And the same thing holds true for fantasy. Fantasy is a genre, and people turn that game turn the genre into whatever version of that game they want. And the game of Silks is the same thing. We are building something that has incredible long-term sustainability and value, and we're building the foundation for it today, where if we are successful and when we are successful, this thing will take on a life of its own, that by the nature of the structure of the economy will be incredibly long-lasting. I don't see an end to it. I see it as falling into one of these genre categories. So I want to remind everybody that that is what we're building. We're building a community that will continue to grow as the project gets underway. There is no rush for us to find shortcuts to jam people into this community. They will come. What we are building is incredibly compelling, and the community will grow organically. We will help it grow along the way. We will spend money in a savvy way to ensure that there is momentum in the awareness of what we're doing and allow people to engage with us, find us and engage with us. So that is our philosophy, and that is how we are going to grow. We do not need millions of people to make this game incredibly successful. We may end up there, but we don't need that. We have a great foundation. We'd like to grow the foundation a little bit and accelerate its growth as we get closer to the launch of the game. But we do not need to go crazy to do that. We don't need to sell ourselves short. We don't need to discount what we're doing. We don't need to cheapen our brand, and we will not do that. This is one of the few companies that you can count on two hands that is going to have a fully functional project up and running in the metaverse in 2022. 99% of the projects that are out there have nothing. And I believe, we as a team believe, that once we launch, that it's going to be very hard not to know who we are, and it's going to be very compelling in this landscape for people to want to get involved. So between now and then, we have several months. We're going to grow the community in an organized and disciplined way. And once the game launches, we believe there's going to be very significant awareness within the organization, within the community, both internally and externally. Those are my talking points for today. If Max is in the audience, if he can raise his hand, we'd love to bring you up to stage. I don't know if you made it here.
There he is.
Perfect. Max, why don't you welcome, and I'll just introduce you. Max is a partner at Crypto Oracle. He is a professional in the NFT and Web3 world, both on the trading and investing side, and has been very involved with us from within the Crypto Oracle team, which is an advisor to the Game of Silks. They're also a stakeholder in the organization. We speak on a weekly basis, and in our last conversation, Max volunteered to come and speak to our community and just give his outside perspectives on the general NFT world and what he sees as it relates to the Game of Silks. So with that, Max, why don't you take over the floor? You're on mute.
Make sure he's got the. There we go. Oh. Make sure he's got the perms to speak on our end. Yeah.
Max, your icon says that you are on mute.
Try this. Alright, see if it lets you unmute now. Turned his audio off.
I'm going to try to reach him, and if we can't get it working, I will open up Q&A. 1 second.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it looks like his audio's off. But
He's figuring it out, and he said he should be on in 2 minutes. So we'll give him a minute or two, and then if it doesn't work, we'll go into Q&A.
Sounds good.
While we're waiting for him, I don't know if Benny is still in the audience, but or if anybody from our team has anything they'd like to talk about. I will say that we do have something going on in Los Angeles. We were given an allocation of tickets to the show. The show is going to be attended by 15 to 20,000 people. It's a pretty big, NFT conference. The tickets are selling for over $600 a piece, and we're giving away, I believe, 30 or 40 of them. So if you're in the area, or if you're interested in coming, we will be meeting up. We'll be setting up a meetup there. We'll have a big presence there. Would love to have you guys join us and grab some of these tickets. So I know that it's up in the